What's up, folks? Niger and Miranda. We are back this week for this week's review of Impact on AXS TV. And tonight was absolutely a mind-blowing episode. So we have a lot to talk about because this was literally probably one of the best episodes that I've seen in recent time in Impact, just because a lot happened. But before we actually get into that, Miranda, how's it going today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, you're right. This was a packed episode. I thought, are they doing an Emergence Part 3 and didn't tell us? Because I felt like there was so much action in this episode, more than we got, I think, in 2 weeks of Emergence. That's just me. But, I mean, yeah, a lot happened tonight.
Yo, you're not wrong. I mean, I was literally going to steal that, but, like, you're not wrong. Like, this definitely had much more action than Emergence Night 2 for sure. Yeah. And I get Emergences again. It's like they're a 2-week special pay-per-view style of theme show that they were putting on. It maybe wanted to end some storylines and whatever it purpose may have served. But like this episode, without the razzle dazzle, it did what pay-per-views do for me. And that's just like the shocking moments, good build, good climax, like everything came together. I mean, we have to take a moment out and a quick moment of silence for WRESTLE HOUSE, because it's as entertaining as that has been. Like this conclusion was like even like really well done. So
yeah, it really felt like a sitcom.
No doubt. I mean, it didn't hurt me like when Fuller House ended, but like it.
No.
I know for you, like this was a hard time.
With one chapter ends, a new begins. So I hope we have a season 2. I mean, we were left with a little bit of not a cliffhanger, but with some, developments with Rosemary and Johnny Bravo. So, I love a wedding. When is this going to happen? Like now there's still so many things, that are left to happen, and seeing if that happens on now back at the Impact Zone. There's still more story to tell if it's a season 2 of WRESTLE HOUSE, or we end up just getting that carryover back into the Impact Zone. I think WRESTLE HOUSE really served its purpose over the past few weeks. And everyone came together at the end. You really did feel the love at the end of WRESTLE HOUSE.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, there's so much to talk about tonight, but I definitely want to make sure that I definitely give my love and support for WRESTLE HOUSE, because, like, it legitimately it accomplished a lot. Number one, kept Kylie Rae away from Deonna Purrazzo in that storyline, because it's inevitable. I mean, you have them two on screens, even in 2 different segments. Your mind's still going to say, well, when is it going to happen? Or when are we going to start building? But, technically putting them in 2 different realms here, it logistically makes sense. You can have her have, enemies. She can be a face and other heels in another place, while Deonna is able to be a heel or work with other faces in this place. So like it really made sense what they did there. And then again, people that may not have got screen time got tons of good storylines and screen time and character building and so on. I mean, Giant Swinger dressed up as Crazy Steve today. I was looking forward to it, and why it was funny for the seconds that it had. I mean, there was other things I gained appreciation for, like the Deaners. Like I have not been like high on them. Sure, they had good matches, but as characters, I was feeling that. And Triple XL, you probably have never heard me say anything to the likes of what's happening. But here I am. Like I like what they did with that. So, it accomplished a lot for me, and I'd be curious to see where they go next with that quirkiness of production that they give. And I know people don't like it, but I was reserved. I finally bought into it, and I think that it provides a different element than what we see on different programming. So I want to see what happens next. Does locker room talk take the next step? What's going to happen there? So for what it's worth, WRESTLE HOUSE was a success all the way from complete to the beginning to the end. Yeah,
it really was. And you're right. The Deaners and Team Triple XL had a pretty funny cinematic match as well this week. And you're right. You got I think people interested in who they are as characters, and hopefully that translates back to to the Impact Zone when they're in a regular wrestling match.
Yeah.
I think especially the fact that you're not running live shows. The back room scene could be kind of crowded. So putting in a divide between what's happening in the Impact Zone and what's happening in Wrestle House, I think was actually a smart idea, because you're not getting too many things crossover, or you're still being able to have people in individual storylines. And now that you're bringing them all back, things can feel fresh again. It's so easy now to let things string out and for storylines to get stale. And when you add such a crazy element like they did with Wrestle House, it really shakes things up. But I mean, that's like a month's worth of content now that flew by.
Yeah.
So it's very small in this, the whole scheme of this year, but it's a good way of doing storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, we'll go to matches at some point, but look, we have got to talk about the two elephants in the room here. Number one, I've been speaking her name for the longest, and she has finally returned, and it's all about her. Tenille Dashwood is back, and I told you as soon as she returns how it was just going to feel instantly different on that roster. And the moment she came out, the music, her presence, the promo, it's like, oh snap, what happens now? Because you added another prominent wrestler into that division, in this new division, one of the best women's division of all of pro wrestling, and you say, well, how does this work? And when you think about the key people that was involved here, Tenille that came out, Jordan halfway, Deonna in the ring, Kimberly next to her, and then Taya came back, and then Kylie Ray came back, and then Susie is slightly confused again. That group right there of like, well, what are they going to do now? And I will go as far as, let's not forget, when Deonna was in that ring, the only voices I heard, and you probably heard them too, Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz out there. They're still out there. Like, just as much as you may have forgot, you hear them to realize, like, yo, there's a lot of things they can do now. They are fully, shall I say, fully staffed. Everyone has returned and is healthy now. And we got some time till Bound for Glory. I'm automatically wondering, what are you going to do with Tenille? We've seen her wrestle all over the world. We know she's one of the best. Now she's in the company, in the capacity where some of the best really didn't get opportunities before, but now can flourish the way they want to. I'm here for this. And I'll say this too. With Tenille being signed for majority of her career, she hasn't had a chance to really wrestle some of these independent people that are now here. And sure, there's some all-weight sprinkles that we got, but like, now you start thinking about a Tenille and Tasha Steelz match. Oh yeah, I could buy that. Or Tenille and you can start, doing three ways: a Tenille, Jordan Grace, and Deonna Purrazzo. Like that's a banger up and down the board. I'm so excited, to be honest. I can't stress enough. Tenille being back was the best thing that happened tonight for me easily. I was so excited. I know you want to talk about Katie Ford's butt, so I'm just.
You always assume I want to talk about Katie Forbes, and it's not always for the best reasons. I appreciate what she does. She does her, But no, you know what? Just when you think you've kind of figured out the knockouts division, something happens and you get thrown for a loop. And you're right. You have been really one of the more predominant people out there speaking about where's Tenille. When Tenille comes back, that's going to add a whole other element. And you are absolutely right. I think a lot of us had kind of just forgotten about her, out of sight, out of mind. And I know since she last appeared, you confirmed, a lot of new additions to the roster, like Tasha, like Kimberly, like Deonna, Kylie Ray became the number one contender. There's been a lot of shifting and moving things around. And so now she's in this new landscape. And I actually like this, this possible program between Deonna and Tenille. I think the interesting thing is that they're very similar, I think, in not only personality, but in a little bit of their technical style. So I'm very curious as to what that's going to look like in the ring. A lot of the story between Deonna and Jordan was differences in style, differences in approaches.
Yeah.
But I think Tenille and Deonna are very similar. So what is the story then? Is it going to be just more about the matches of personality and the tits for tat? Also, it looks like Kimberly is aligning herself with Deonna Purrazzo. So is she going to be playing a bigger role? I think that that's actually a really smart place for her right now, because we know, I mean, we talked about, she's been kind of undervalued and underseen, and aligning herself with the Knockouts champion, could be a very good place for her. On top of, what's going to happen now with Jordynne Grace if she's really out of the title picture? I predicted, when we were talking about emergence, that puts her in the back of the line. And I see that actually probably being where she's at. Maybe we see her and Tenille up in the next few weeks, but then Kylie Rae is she's in the wings waiting. So there's so many moving pieces and so many ways that you could plan this out or think about it, but all of them are incredibly talented. They all have their own distinct personalities, and they all contribute something different to the division. So and they all can have fantastic matches. Like, you really have a win-win-win-win with all of these scenarios. And of course, you do mention have secondary storylines that you can absolutely run as well, not just with the title picture, but of course you still have Kiera and Tasha, you still have Havoc and Nevaeh, you still have Rosemary and Taya. I mean, they seem to be back on the same page again, or Susie and Kylie. So much still left to be seen from the Knockouts division, but I love this twist with Tenille Dashwood coming back.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like echo something else you said too. I mean, when you think about when you think about Deonna Purrazzo, you think about Kimberly being a lot. Now, Kimberly, I really haven't seen traditionally work heel. Mm-hmm. The gimmick doesn't scream heel, but being like a manager, like / co-signer, is a nice happy place between the two, if you ask me. So it's the booking. I obviously don't have the experience enough to have made that decision, but it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. And again, being low key. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as Raju here, but like thinking about like the underdog that's not really getting attention.
No, I think it's a great analogy, because that's exactly what happened. And we've seen, Rohit Raju was successful in the way that he strategized his alliance with Chris Bay. So that's actually a very smart analogy, because that could be exactly what Kimberly tries to set up with Deonna.
Yeah. And then tag teams, just like Nevaeh, Havoc and Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan, when you can mix it up, and that's 3 to 4 matches there instantly, cross vectors, in other words. And I think that's a good way to keep Kylie Rae and Deonna Purrazzo away from each other until Bound for Glory. So it's really smart. And then just adding Tenille in it just makes it all more like exciting. So I'm head over heels for the return of Tenille Dashwood into the Impact Knockouts division. It's going to be a good time. Now, the next thing obviously is the change in title. I know how you preliminary feel on this. I will say one thing about this. I have not been the biggest Josh Matthews fans time to time, but I love the fact that Josh Matthews and why the name slipping out of my head real quick.
And Madison.
Right. I love the idea of them saying, well, this may not be a good idea to continuously do an open challenge, because you never know when it's going to catch up to you, and bada boom. I love that, because it's true. And although at times you never knew he was going to face, but actually facing the Eric Young, it's a whole different dynamic. Crazy Eric Young. And first of all, the match was brilliant. Really well done. And if it had not have changed titles here, I would have just been maybe not equally as interested into their program much further, because I think Eric Young worked the match so good in being a heel, and in a heel championship style of match too, that it had to go that way. And again, I'm the biggest advocate of, I love when the faces chase the heel. Yep. So Eddie Edwards as a baby face has work wonders for him.
Yes.
Eric Young as a heel is at his best.
Really,
a heel with a championship at his best. I loved everything about this besides this happening tonight. That's the only thing. 1 week after emergence, coming up on
right.
So I'm not like mad. I just am so baffled that it was tonight. But again, if the face is chasing the heel all the way to Bound for Glory, then cool. I'm all for that. And I just hope that, you know, the one thing that I really, really love about this is that Eric Young coming back to Impact was a great decision. You know how much this company means to him. Him wearing this championship is going to mean the most. Eric Young is going to bring even more integrity to the championship. And regardless of this storyline happening, I don't know personally, but I could imagine that Eddie Edwards and Eric Young are really close. And when it came down to, you know, the discrepancy with that title of earlier this year and how it sort of was losing its prestige and, you know, because it was held hostage and what Eddie Edwards did to really restore the integrity to it, it only makes sense that it goes to somebody else that equally cares about it just as much. And when you think about their careers, their trajectories, pretty much the same.
Very parallel. Very, very, very similar. And that could be part of the interesting story is that they've had very parallel careers in Impact, and then they just went two different ways. You know, Eddie was steadfast. He stayed committed to the company. He was there, and he really had a lot of growing pains, but ultimately was rewarded with this title. But he lost it to someone who, you know, had so many ups and downs with his character in his career, left for a while, came back, more driven and determined and psychotic as ever, and took that fuel to take Eddie's championship. So I hope they explore that more, because I think too there's multiple ways to help add value to a championship. I think phase one, like you said, with this open challenge was great. I mean, Eddie Edwards played that role so well. He is such a, you know, one of the biggest faces in the entire company, and people were rooting for him. And it did get the title back on TV for quite a while, but we didn't need that forever. So now we're on to phase two. And I think phase two of really helping that title grow and get that prestige back is a really good program, a really good, you know, series of matches or rivalry between two fantastic wrestlers. So I feel like this will help elevate not only both of these gentlemen's careers and what they mean to the company, but the world title.
And look, we're not the smartest people and most knowledgeable of wrestling.
Absolutely not. No, don't let these faces fool you. We just kind of make this up as we go along.
But I do understand that fans that really don't really try to like understand what's happening as far as with storylines have a problem with, well, if the champion's not there, then they're not good or the promotion's not good. It tanks everything when the champion is not there. And no matter if it's because it's held hostage or because of a storyline, but like when it was gone, it really did taint everything. I mean, it tainted more than COVID did the tainting, because people just like, well, that person pretty much screwed all of everything. Why should I care about it no more? So him restoring the prestige to it, along with the efforts that Impact has done to restore its prestige and to make that really initial step that we're moving forward. This is the really, really refreshing, like, oh, they meant everything that they said. This is the really big transition statement of we're going forward. Yeah. Also, it sounds like the same thing that Emergence was going to do, but
right? Like I don't. Especially like last week, they had Eddie versus RVD. So I'm just thinking, like, why wasn't this switched around in some ways? Like, you make this big deal about Emergence. So I get maybe they were concerned about, you know, having it overshadow the women's Ironman match. I'm not entirely sure as to why this happened now instead of Emergence.
Good point. Okay, where are we going next? I know where I want to go. Oh, wherever I want to go?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, well, I was saying I don't know where I want to go next because there was so much. So I'm going to need a little bit of guidance because I could go anywhere next. I think,
Okay,
I need a little bit of a roadmap for this
fair,
week's episode.
fair. I drop the car until I get sleepy. So Deonna Purrazzo, we already talked about the black tie affair. I thought that segment was really well done with Tenille coming back. It was just brilliantly executed into it. Might like with the return of Rascalz House. It's like the reinstatement of the full blown division. So if that's what the whole purpose of the black tie affair was, then perfect. Also, Deonna in a dress killed it, like absolutely killed it. Like it was like it really felt like she was really going to a place where everybody else is kind of underdressed, but like, and Kimberly as well. So like appreciation to the attire here. Opening up the show, we did get the Katie Forbes show. I think people were wrestling, but all I saw was Katie Forbes. You can correct me if
There
I'm wrong.
was some wrestling. It was, Rob Van Dam versus Sami Callihan. And this was a result of his challenge to RVD last week. So we knew we were getting this match, but we just didn't know what to expect. Especially, Katie Forbes is truly a wild card in all of this. I mean, not only is she a distraction, but we saw today she's dangerous. Like, she can legit stomp a hole in somebody. And we saw that at the end of the match. I think Sami got the win, but RVD was not happy with it. So they ended up attacking him with a chair. And Katie was able to hit like a rear view with the chair to Sami Callihan. So yes, she may be a distraction, but she is a dangerous distraction.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
Rhino with possibly Heath initially against Reno Scum, and we're still playing the storyline of Heath not being signed. It's a little bit of a vigilante coming in to help Rhino pick up the win, being chased out by Scott D'Amore and security. Nothing to be made here. Just we'll see. There's no denying Rhino and Heath camaraderie together. Like they're legitimate friends. So them doing anything together, it just feels refreshing. I mean, in the past they've had tremendous and very exciting, entertaining moments and segments together. So I can't be mad at that. I just, what's the evolution of Heath here? I love the promos that they're doing, especially from last week. But what's the evolution of Heath, the character? Besides the physique, he looks like he's in the best shape of his life. But where are we going with the character?
So if they're looking at, what to do, I think as far as the development of character that's gone fairly well for me is Brian Myers. Being the most professional wrestler and the way that he's already had an impact on the locker room. He had an interview where he mentioned that next week he is inviting Willie Mack to the ring so that they could do a handshake, which what professional wrestlers do. But then getting interrupted at the end by Moose and saying how this company is so unprofessional. Those nuances, I feel like I'm getting to know another side of Brian Myers, which makes me excited. It's moments like that where you're like, wow, I think this person has found the right place for him and the right pieces and the right characters. And it's different than what we've seen before. So I think if they could take a page out of that book and do something a little different with Heath, it's going to be a home run. But, still we're getting these glimpses of, the old Heath where, he's still trying to figure out how to get onto the roster and kind of sneaking around. I do think that this week's, the way that he got brought in with, pretending to be a cameraman was a really good, interesting spot. I think that was a creative spot, but I just don't want to keep seeing him in this role. I want to see something new, another layer, something different with him. And I think they've done that pretty well with Brian Myers.
Yeah. I am going to move to the Ace Austin Madman Fulton versus the Rascalz. Now, this was an excellent tag team match. I'm a big Madman Fulton fan. So, regardless of him being in the spotlight or them being, within the main event picture, I've always said that, we had to see them work better and more fluent as a tag team. This was an amazing match showing their progression together. They were clicking on all cylinders as far as IQ wise. I mean, this match was really crisp as well, too. like especially when you're working the Rascalz, who's going to utilize every spot in the ring. So I was digging that, and I didn't know how this match was going to get booked, and it didn't matter because the Motor City Machine Guns coming out at the end. I was like, oh yeah, those guys are here. That's right. Oh, yeah, give me more. I mean, next week is going to be crazy.
Yeah,
considering what they're doing.
You know, they fought at Slammiversary. You know, so it's a match that we've seen before, which was already well done. But now with the titles being on the line, it adds another element to it. It is a little bit like, oh, yeah, I mean, the fact that we haven't seen that much action from the Motor City Machine Guns, a lot of their reign has just been promo work and having to reintroduce the Impact audience to them. And they successfully, defended their titles against the North, but now it is this new challenge. And if we thought that, the North made their way through the roster pretty easily, I can only imagine, what it's going to look like for the Motor City Machine Guns. They're already going to be going up against the tag team they've already faced. Yeah. So for sure, I think I'm going to be looking for elements that are different that make this feel different than the first round. But, the fact that they openly gave this opportunity to the Rascalz, I mean, I think it's great. It's this belief that, this established team has in the newer, younger generation. Back to the tag team division, I mean, there was a lot of high hopes after Slammiversary for it, and now we don't see the North that much anymore. We some of the other tag teams were stuck in WRESTLE House for a few weeks, and even Ace and Madman. I mean, they're a team, but they're not really a tag team. So maybe this is part of the plan to rebuild that tag team division. But at the same time, I don't know. I've been kind of feeling a little underwhelmed by the tag team division after all the high hopes from Slammiversary.
I think there's two things here what I like about it. I mean, the match happening again is, I feel like this one has momentum. I feel like. Yeah. With the Motor City Machine Guns returning, that spectacle alone could have possibly overshadowed the whole match. The match was good, but also too, it is the idea of saying they haven't worked before. I mean, they haven't worked in a while, or maybe before. They probably never. No, there's no way they've ever worked. So them and the Rascalz working for the first time, then it wasn't going to be as crisp because there's too much jitters in the ring. This time, everything's clicking. And now everything has like set in with the championship adds another layer of intrigue. That's why I'm much more interested. And I think what else this did is that it establishes who are heel tag teams, who are face tag teams. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the next, progression here. Because WRESTLE House blurred all of that as far as the tag teams.
That's true.
So
yeah.
You need to establish who are who and continue pushing forward with the tag team division. I think, they definitely are doing smart and good progressions here on that note. The last thing we have to talk about here is Moose in his pursuit for finding EC3. Now, the return of the Stinger, not Sting, but like Stingers, like after a show goes over, after a movie goes, that's called the Stinger, by the way. The return of the Stinger this week was, first of all, was brilliant.
I'm so happy we got that back. Like that in it of itself. Oh, I love those because they do them so well.
Yeah.
We acknowledge the things that you're good at, and they're great at those. So keep it coming.
Yeah, it was really well done. Very cinematic. And I'm already like even more invested into this. So like this is really well done as EC3 is being sort of targeted by, Moose is being targeted by EC3, why Moose is looking for EC3. And how it's done, the execution, keeping EC3 what's got him, back in Impact, if you ask me, because he didn't just sit on his butt once he's released. He rebuilt himself, and then he's just been killing the promos. So, like, everything EC3 has been doing, I'll say, independently for that short period of time, in matter of success, you're keeping him doing that type of stuff. With probably a backing now with Impact support. This is well done. And it looks like they got a target, and that area looks very close to me, but not close to me. So I'm going to guess New York. I don't know where they're going at in New York anytime soon because New York is
No, I mean, have they announced where? Well, they haven't announced where Bound for Glory will be. I think the assumption it's going to be in the same location as they've been filming the weekly episodes. But who knows? Maybe they're doing something else. Also, and I think you brought this up before too, that EC3 has stated that he isn't going to limit himself to Impact. So maybe they take this, program, this rivalry on the road somewhere else, and it ends up in the hands of another promotion, something cross-promotional. Who knows? But I think those are my two best guesses.
Well, I mean, with that statement, I was more or less saying that I feel like EC3, with the controller's narrative, leads him to option to do that. I mean, they never say they officially signed him having his championship as collateral here works for everything that the gamer wants to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that happens, but the intrigue is here, and I'm just wondering where it's going. All I know is that it looks like New York is very much circled, and New York, who just recently opened their gyms, who have not opened up their movie theaters, which means they're just not completely ready for, because I already know somebody's going to be in a comment barking at me right now, because they always do. I know where they're going. They're not going to New Jersey. I mean, to New York. They're going to New Jersey.
New Jersey?
Because New Jersey is running shows right now. GCW have been running shows in Atlantic City. So Impact has said, maybe we make that move for October for Bound for Glory.
Oh.
There you have it. You heard it here first. Look,
we broke the code. We broke it.
Yep.
I'm gonna say we, but it was
a little bit
Niger. But
it's a little bit north of me, but yeah, I went straight to New York because everybody goes to New York because no one goes to New Jersey in regular life.
Well, I mean, usually all the big promotions run in New York, but nowadays everyone has to get creative on where they run shows, and there was a sign. I mean, it was very obvious with the placement of the knife and the attention to it that they're giving us some hints as to where they could land next, and it makes sense.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I can't wait to see. Anything else that we're missing here?
Man, it was a packed show. So I think we covered, a lot of it overall. This show in particular definitely gets me excited for next week. I think I hadn't had this feeling in quite a while, ever since the lead up to Slammiversary, I think. So it's been a few months. And if they start with these again to the build up for Bound for Glory, I mean, it's going to be electric. So I think that especially what EC3 is doing with Moose, I mean, that is just really, it's just really smart. I think it's really unique, and EC3, I mean, it's so different. And I could see how some people draw some of these comparisons between, say, Eric Young and EC3, both coming back to Impact, both a bit unhinged, but their approaches are really different. So it's something that I can appreciate. But we're in a new reign of world champions. It's now the time of Eric Young. And it's unlike an Eric Young we've ever seen before. So I am really interested in seeing how this show goes from now on as Eric Young as world champion.
That's right. I mean, one is a lunatic, one is strategical madman, and both of their trajectories to, claiming gold and doing it the way they want to do it. So very different, but very both effective, as we see. So I can't wait for next week. TJP versus Chris Bay.
That's going to be a match.
And we got the Motor City Machine Guns match next week?
Yeah, Motor City Machine Guns versus the Rascalz next week.
Yep, so that leaves us about 2 to 3 more matches left, and no more Wrestle House, so we'll see Locker Room Talk return. So it'd be interesting. Moose Pursuit still for EC3 still up there. I would imagine that Eric Young or maybe Eddie Edwards, someone's going to have to address what happened there. So we'll see.
I imagine Eric Young's going to be, coming out telling "I told you so."
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to see what his first post match promo / new champion promo will be like.
That's right. Well, as always, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We're back each and every week at the conclusion of Impact. So catch us live on YouTube 10 o'clock p.m. for our review each and every Tuesday after the conclusion of Impact on AXS TV, which is at 8 p.m. So after the 2-hour mark. And as always, leave us love in the comments and let us know what you thought about tonight's show. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.